welcome to episode 57 of the Earful podcast with me, Matty.
Me, Matt. Do we not do full names anymore?
Fuck it. On this episode, we have Luke and Jake of the band Press To Meco.
We do. And we have a cracking conversation. We talk all about the brand new album, Transmute, which is, at this point that you're listening to this podcast, it is now out on all streaming platforms. However, when we spoke to him, it was on the week it was coming out on the Friday. So bear that in mind whilst you're listening to this podcast. We talk all about the recording process of the brand new album, recording in a fucking castle, which is sick.
That wasn't even a recording studio to start with.
No, I'm just overall just winging it.
Yeah.
And that they talk through that anyway. Influences for this record in terms of songwriting and overall in the playing and what they've been influenced by. And a big one as well that we were really interesting conversation. We were discussing overcoming creative burnout. And their perspective is quite interesting on that. And in addition to that, we have all the typical regular things that we do. So we found out what their favorite scary movie is and what is the pet peeve. It is so good, this episode.
They are two good pet peeves. They work well together.
It worked really well. Other than that, we will see you on the opposite end of this episode.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
All right. So we have one out of two guests on the podcast. We're gonna wait for Luke, but whilst we've got him, Jake, how are we doing, mate?
Very well, thank you. How about you, lads?
Good, man, yeah.
All good here. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So you guys have an album coming out on Friday.
Yes, we do indeed. We're all very, very stoked to get it out into the world and show people what we've been sitting on for almost a year.
Absolutely. The lovely guys at Marshall decided to send us a link just before the podcast recording, so we managed to check it out, and it is so fucking good.
Thank you, man.
Dude, like, I'm just gonna say off the bat, the bass in that album is ridiculous.
Yeah, dude, that comes through. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nothing to do with me, I must say. I think
but you're gonna have to play it, so that's fine.
yeah, I mean, I played it, but I mean, Machine, the producer, he just knows how to stink it up a good one, I think is the phrase. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh man, absolute pleasure. Because I mean, it worked. The entire album works as a package. Like, you do tend to get, like, once in a while, like, as an album where it's here, there, and everywhere. But this one is like a solid package of good shit, just all together, all in one. Tied with a bow.
Thank you.
That's how you can sell it now. Just quote that little sentence. A solid package of good shit.
That is pretty concise. I like that.
Yeah. With a bow on it.
Oh man.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Luke's here.
Here he comes. Here he comes. Air horns.
Hello, fuck, sorry. I'm sorry.
Hey.
I'm so sorry. Wait, one sec.
You called it.
I did fucking call it. Sorry, can we swear?
I'm so sorry. I literally, I was literally clean. Me and my girlfriend just got like a baby bunny, and like I was just helping her clean the cage out, and Jake just messaged me like, "Are you coming?" And I was just like, "Fuck!" Just had to like run upstairs. I'm so sorry.
Oh, dude, it's all good. Welcome to an Earful podcast.
Hello.
How's
Nice
it going,
to meet you.
man?
I'm Luke, by the way.
Nice to meet you
Nice to
too.
meet
Right, Jake.
I'm definitely keeping this in the recording.
I'm so sorry.
So, as we were just saying to Jake, the album is so fucking good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
As I've just quoted, it's a package of good shit with a bow on it.
Ooh.
There we go.
That's kind of shit.
That is the best kind of shit.
It's still shit, but it lures you in as being slightly, presentable, and it might take you out for a nice dinner.
Maybe. Just see it. It just depends on the day.
Yeah, it depends on the day.
So we might as well get all the way into it then. So when did the writing process start for this album?
Oh god, I've still got hay and rabbit pellets on the brain. So me and Lewis really started writing this record like pretty much the summer of 2019 because there was a lot of turmoil internally with the band, and just like me and Lewis just feeling the pressures of just getting a bit older and just being like, why are we still doing this? You know, like everyone else is financially stable and has time to do things, and you know, like, and also, you know, just being in a band, you're basically a punching bag. Do you know what I mean? So that at a certain point, you know, it takes its toll on you. All of the, you know, rolling with the punches, kind of, it all accumulates, and you know, it can leave you in a kind of a rough place or a dark place. So like, I was kind of having a rough time anyways, and I was just questioning. You know, I really didn't feel like I wanted to do this not just this band, but just kind of anything in the music industry anymore. And you know, like Lewis has been one of my closest friends for probably, you know, 14, 13 years now, you know, and kind of, I think me and him needed to just do some rebuilding a bit as well. Not that we'd fallen out, but just in regards to just remembering why we do this and why we started doing this and finding the love for it again. You know, because we were still the best of friends and we should be enjoying it, but there's so much peripheral shit that gets involved and distracts you from that, you know. So we basically just we went away, and our manager, you know, managers always have wacky friends, right, that have crazy connections or this and that. So our manager knows this guy called Phil who owns this, it's basically a castle tower in the middle of the Cotswolds, and he's always been super supportive of the band. Him and his friend Andy have always been, you know, they just love the music industry and they're just fascinated by it, and they knew nothing about it a few years ago, and they just love seeing how it all works and chatting to bands and stuff like that. So Phil very kindly offered me and Lewis to go and stay in this very luxurious, like kind of Grand Designs home kind of castle in the Cotswolds with like a heated pool. And it's like, especially when the three of us are there, it's just proper bringing the fucking ruffians into the manor. But yeah, so me and Lewis went away, and just, you know, very quickly kind of going into it, knowing this would sort of be potentially our swan song in some ways, and knowing this could potentially be the last thing we ever did, it was kind of quite liberating, and it kind of just meant we were going in with no preconception of what it needed to sound like, or any boxes we felt like we needed to check, or anything like that, or any of that stuff that might have tripped us up or made us feel a bit awkward or clunky when writing songs before. And we just had, you know, the best writing experience I think we've ever had. Well, no, definitely that we've ever had, and came out of it just feeling really positive and just kind of like, right, how do we make this into something we want to keep doing, because this all feels real good. And then cue Jake, you know, Jake comes into the picture, and fast forwarding the transition process, you know, like the back end of it, I think, you know, Jake coming in, obviously we had such a great relationship prior to Press To Meco, and we always knew me and Jake always knew we'd be in some kind of musical endeavor together. So it's just funny it ended up being this, but just having Jake to come in and be creative on the back end was just really the cherry on the cake for us, because we've got such massive respect for him as a musician and as a person, and he's just another one of me and Lewis with his thoughts on a lot of things, you know, within music and outside of it, and just having another opinion we could really trust, that can come in and just kind of objectively look at the songs, and was actually one of the 5 fans this band has, which was very lucky as well, that we had his perspective on that. And just there he is. That was pre-Preston, that was pre him being in the band. Do you know what I mean? So
why it's allowed. That's why it's actually allowed.
He's an OG.
Yeah. And yeah, just having Jake's creative input, and then Machine, who's just, even if you've heard a song 1,000 times and you hate it and you're in pre-production, you questioning if it's good anymore, Machine will make you remember that it's decent, or make you love that song again, because he's just got the most infectious energy, and there's a reason why we love working with him, and it's just because he brings, without sounding too like hippie about it, I think he brings the soul out of songs. He's one of those producers where it's like he'll recognize what it is, and he'll double down on what the essence of a song is and just make it better. So yeah, that was the writing experience. So I'm trying to get rid of the hay. The hay's still on my nose.
So there's quite a lot of information to unpack in there, but just to kind of rewind it back a bit, obviously you mentioned that you guys felt like some sort of burnout. Having recent experience that I think me and Maya, because we're both in the same band.
Oh, cool.
So from recent experience with that, how did you overcome just in general creative burnout? Was it like something you did, or was it something that time kind of repaired itself with?
It was kind of, it's funny because it was kind of like going to the extreme of pushing the big red button, where it's just like, I literally called our manager. I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore because I'm already going crazy, and this is kind of just fueling that.
Yeah.
And it was almost just like damage control, I think, for me. And Lewis was feeling very much a similar way, in his own way as well. And it's almost like, well, here's one thing I know I can just remove straight away, even though, in hindsight, that's just going to make you more miserable anyways, because there's a reason we're all wired a certain way and we need this in our lives. Otherwise, we just feel empty without it. And, I think, I don't know. Sorry, it was a question in regards to overcoming it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
getting out of your own way.
Yeah, getting out your own way is a good way to describe it. And just kind of, it's just that letting go of it and letting go of all the stuff that you can't control, like industry shit that doesn't make sense or can feel unfair sometimes. But then also on the other side, it's like, well, actually we've done some things we're super proud of. And like, if we're still a small band, but there's stuff we've done where if you were to tell, even the other day when me and Jake went to Marshall just to shoot some stuff, it's like,
that's so sick.
Which is it's super cool. And it's just like, we've got a great relationship with Marshall, and it's like, just me and Jake, if you told our 13-year-old selves, you'd be like, oh, you're rock
crazy.
stars. It's just like, couldn't be further from the truth. It's like, we're so poor. You know what I mean? And yeah, so I think it's just clearing the fog a bit and just realizing why you do it. And I think if you let go of any unrealistic expectations you may have, or even just the expectations you may have naively had at the start of picking up a guitar or all those years ago, or starting a band, then it does come back down to, no, I need to do this and I love doing it. And then it's kind of, as long as you're doing it, then you're kind of fulfilling your bit. Do you know what I mean? And you've got that bit where you feel fulfilled, and it doesn't matter if you don't get this or don't get that, or this, you don't sell this many things, or you don't make this much money.
Yeah.
It's all great. It's all a massive bonus, but I think it's so easy to get lost in that. And I think as soon as you can let go of that, you just feel creatively freer, and you're happy with shit because you're not getting let down all the time.
I feel like with us, it's been like, without obviously pinpointing people, sometimes it's like other like band members and that sort of pulling you back. And I feel like you said, it's sort of the whole cloud of the industry that's looming over you as well. And you've got to make sure you're on top of things. So like we mentioned on the other podcast we did the other day, you've got everything to think about these days, like the whole media package, all that sort of thing. And it starts pulling away from the music. And to be like, I think that's what was affecting us like the most. And that, and obviously relying on like other people. And I know what you mean. Like you should just like go back, press the reset button, and just go back to when you was that 13-year-old kid in a practice room in your school, like just playing with your mates and just enjoying it, like in general.
It's a bit of a double-edged sword as well in terms of being a band today, because while you don't necessarily need, say, PR, that sort of thing, like a middleman, because you can do it all yourself, it also means that you have to do it all yourself.
Yeah.
You got people who are like, even people who are, bigger. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and someone was saying that, some comedians, they are basically their own PR. And you've got someone like, say, not our demographic whatsoever, a very funny woman, Sarah Millican, who's got 1 million followers on Twitter. And she's got people tweeting her asking if there's going to be a cloakroom at the gig. She's like, let me just find out for you. It's like, you should not have to do that, but you don't have to pay anyone to do it for you. But
that's fucking insane. I never thought that would be.
I think it's one of those things where it's like, as idealistic as, it's nice to be as idealistic as thinking like, oh, we can just do it all ourselves. I think you have to be a very special kind of person to actually do it successfully. Like obviously the Enter Shikari guys built their shit from ground up, but it's like the three of us are a car crash, and it's like, we're not wired that way. And it's like, we need constant managing in life. Do you know what I mean? Let alone making sure our shit goes out on time, or we get service to, the right playlisting people and all of that stuff. It's like, so I've got such huge respect for people that can do it themselves. But yeah, I don't think we just wouldn't get. We struggle enough to write a song. Do you know what I mean? Let alone everything else of being in a band.
Do you find it hilarious when you're younger, when you're like 15, 16, 14, whatever, where you have this like ridiculous idea of how easy it is to be successful in music? I'm going to put my hand up and say I was so guilty of that, where I saw a film, was like, that looks like a piece of piss. I can get to where I want to well easy. And then you actually, the older you get and the more experience you get within the industry, you're just like, oh, it's really not like that. No, everyone's
a long way to the top.
Just listen to the lyrics in Freddy Krueger by Ruben. That tells you pretty much everything you need to know about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, like, how are you? You guys seem similar age to us. We're probably older. Like, how old are you guys? Like,
26.
Yeah, 26. So we're both 26.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we're older, but like, so in that I think all of us are kind of like mid-20s to mid-30s. It's like we
sorry to interrupt. Can you edit this out? I've got an emergency. 2 seconds.
Yeah, no
worries. I was just gonna say, like, you know, it's hard, you know, it's hard on one hand because you have that hindsight where you're like, oh, I thought it was so easy, but we're also from the era, like the golden era of rock music. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like that, you know, the mid 90s to the mid sort of noughties. It's like the kind of checks people were getting paid. Your average rock band, your average pop punk band, your stuff, it was huge. And it's like, we grew up on the premise that if you could be a bit, you know, even a little bit successful, you could make a living off this, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas that's not the case now. It's like, I think something that, you know, Lewis talks about this a lot, but I think something that there needs to be more awareness of these days is just like, you're probably, even if you're successful, you're probably not going to make a living off being in a band. Do you know what I mean? And that's talking to the bands that do progress. Cause it's like, you have to be at the pinnacle, especially in the UK. There's probably, you can probably count on your hands the amount of rock, metal, sort of alternative rock bands that are making a good wage of actually being in a band. And I think there's this weird perception that, and perspective that people have where it's like, oh, if you see everyone on Radio 1 or you see these people playing these big festival slots and stuff, it's like, oh yeah, they'll be living off the band. It's like, no, they're like, even the big bands have got side hustles and stuff. So, and I think that's what's hard for people like us, where it's just kind of coming to terms with that illusion that we had, you know, from when we were younger, watching like Kerrang and Scuzz back in you know, the early 90s and stuff. It's like all those bands on that would have been making money back then. Do you know what I mean? Because that was almost pre-internet. You know,
it's crazy because it's like our generation's passed into that point now. So like you said, all those bands we grew up listening to, they were in that sort of era where like if you made good music and somebody spotted you was off, like that was it. Whereas like, I know what you mean, everything's a lot more DIY in our generation, which is crazy. And I never thought of it until you said then, where like most of the bands in the UK that we listen to, like obviously a lot of them still have jobs and they're still grinding as well as doing the music. But then say if you're in the USA, I guess I don't know how it would be like with other bands like that, but I guess with it being so much bigger, you've got a lot more places to tour, because I guess there's only so many times you could do a UK tour.
100%. I think that's something that is a harsh realization when you realize, okay, so if we want to ever make any money off this, we can't stay in the UK. No. And that's when it comes into being like, okay, so now what do we need to tour Europe and make sure we don't turn up and there's a loaf of bread and what we play to the sound guy when we've spent £500 to get there. Do you know what I mean? And then that's the shit where it starts getting difficult for bands. And that's, you know, that's such a huge make and breaker of bands. You know, even if you've survived the car crash of managing all the members of a band, which is hard enough. Do you know what I mean? Because everyone's an individual and you're relying on each other. Just those logistics where realizing we have to be, if you're in England, you have to be playing Europe. And then it's a whole other ballpark if you want to go over to the States and break it there. And it's like, there's no point just going over on your own. You know, you may get lucky on a couple of shows. It's like, you need to make sure you're going on with the right tour, the right support, you know, the right management and label to be promoting you on that, in all of these things.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
It's all right.
Did you have rabbit problems as well?
Triple cat problems.
Triple cat problems. Oh my goodness.
Go for it, crats. So, in just in addition to that, then, do you think there's going to come a time where there's going to be a change, where something has to be altered in the way that we deal with artists, in terms of like the fact that you couldn't have that as your main job now, or do you think that's something that's set now? That's just how it's going to be going forward.
I don't know about you, Jake, but I feel like it's more the people. So I was talking about just people our age and when we grew up. I think it's more our idea of what being a musician has shifted rather than doing just what we thought we'd be able to do, which is like Matty said, it's just like, being the best band you can, getting picked up, and then you're kind of on your way. It's like that's just not the case anymore. It's like, and you see it with like the younger generation now, like the 18 to 21-year-olds. It's like they're coming into it knowing they have to be this multifaceted musician, knowing that they need to be grinding on Instagram reels or whatever the new trend is, or TikTok every day, and racking up thousands and thousands of views. And it's like, like if you can land with any of those platforms, then all of a sudden it starts becoming a more viable option, because you can start upload videos and sponsors come in who will pay you for those videos. And all of a sudden, you've got all your songs start getting synced, or your videos start getting parodied or whatever. And then all of this money will come in through that way. But then that's a double-edged sword as well, because I think we were talking about like Instagram drummers the other day, Jake, where it's like, it's sick and they're getting tons of views, but it's also like, that is their gig. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so that's that instead they're not, a lot of them, it's not, for us, it would be like, we need to go and write a record. For them, it's like, I need to be working on my next video. And then that's their thing. And then, which is kind of like the new way of doing things. And then off the back of that, they'll get, gigs with other musicians. And then
also off the back of that, they'll get depressed.
Well, look, if you're playing music,
which is true. You've got like Matthias Asato, famous guitarist. He's like mainly known for his Instagram stuff, but he also has sessioned for some quite prevalent pop artists like Jessie J, stuff like that. He basically got all of his gigs from being on Instagram. And then obviously pandemic, no one's got any gigs, doesn't matter how good you are, no one's playing any gigs. And he took himself off, like deleted his whole Instagram account, because he was like, oh, hang on a minute, this is making me unbelievably sad. Or like not just in a sense of like that's my only gig, but also in a sense of he was getting so macrocosmic on the whole, this post needs to be perfect, otherwise it's not going to get as many views as the one that went viral last month. Which is so sad and brutal, because it's like, you're amazing, like you move people with the notes that come out of your hands.
And numbers and stats are the opposite of that. They're the killer of that.
Ruling your fucking life. They're ruling your life. They're ruling how much fucking serotonin is your brain spiraling out.
It's a sad reality, isn't it, really? Because like, from experience of like, to give context, our band split the other week, but we're carrying on doing our own projects, etc.
Cool.
I've had this thought yesterday where I might take the opportunity just to get rid of socials, because I've got nothing to plug, obviously, apart from the podcast. I've got nothing to be like, I want to be relevant about something. So this is the perfect time for me to go, let's cleanse it. Let's get rid of actually trying to look for who's seen my post or who's like actually interacted with it or anything like that, and actually just take the time off it and see if it changes my mindset, and if anything it makes me a bit more creative. So I think that
should absolutely do that.
Because I think if anything, it's the perfect time to do it, because I've always come with excuses to my other half, because she's like, why don't you just get rid of it? I'm like, well, I wouldn't want to do it because I'm scared of like getting rid of it if there's something for me to plug, if we have like a song out or something I can't, or something like that.
Well,
that's the thing, isn't it? But then it's just the fear of like something you've worked on not getting that exposure that everyone's trying to fight the same thing.
That's a completely valid fear as well, and it's kind of like back to what we were saying about, if you want to do the music thing, it's like you need a side hustle, and then your side hustle needs a side hustle. And it's like you're doing it, like, and Luke's doing it as well. Luke's got his Twitch channel. You guys have got a podcast. I've got 3 cats. I can't do a lot, right? I ain't got a lot of time. That's a complete lie. But yeah, you need something, man, definitely. Well, but also at the same time, getting off of it for a little while is definitely not a bad thing.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, that's the only reason I haven't taken that step away, because it's just like, we need to be posting shit. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and then with COVID, it was like, all right, well, I'll do the Twitch thing. And then it's like, you need social, it's like that whole universe is built on technology and social media. So it's like, I couldn't really get away from it. But it is just that, I mean, it's what Gold's about, our song Gold. You know, it's literally the whole premise of that, of just wanting to step away from this thing that does feel very toxic, but also you don't want to feel like you're so disconnected, you don't know what's going on anymore, you know. And it's a real thing, and it's something we think about a lot. But I think it's just recognizing, you know, the stuff that is bad. So recognizing that feeling when you're feeling frustrated because your post got 10 likes. Do you know what I mean? It's like that. It doesn't matter. Like that's like that. It feels like it matters, but it's just like, it's letting go of that sort of ego / self-gratifying kind of part of, you know, all our personalities, especially us as sensitive musicians.
Yeah, it's a comparison thing as well. I mean, that's the classic thing of just like, but then every time I feel like that feeling's coming on strong, I just, you know, just whack the album on and like, nice. if I wasn't in this band, I would actually really love this album. So yeah,
exactly. Awesome. I find it fucking hilarious. Like, on a complete different side note, I started as a creative release not to do something with music. I was like, I'll start doing photography properly and like do all my landscape shots. And then so I started an Instagram for that. And then you go, fuck, everyone's picture's better, and then you start comparing yourself to that. It's like a horrible cycle of like, if you try and be creative with something, you are bound to put yourself in that little pit, because like because I think it's just a part of being humble, is that you're gonna have that thing where you try and you kind of like compare your work to everyone else and like freak out over it.
Look, we're all musicians. We're all attracted to being self-deprecating. So like injecting this gratification system of numbers into us is not a good mix. You know, like it's not good. My fucking bunny's got an Instagram account. My bunny's way cuter than all these 20K view bunnies. Way cute.
Fuck you over bunny.
At least he's not, you know, he doesn't have to go through the chemical dramas.
Yeah.
He can be more oblivious.
He's just going to sit there and look pretty, isn't he?
Yeah.
I don't think my dog's looking for a serotonin, so it's fine. We're all good.
That's it.
Yeah, dogs. I was reading a thing earlier as well. It's like people saying during the pandemic, like, don't feel bad if you're not being productive, if you have to isolate and things like that. It's like when a dog is rolling around in fox shit, it's not thinking it's not thinking that it should be doing something better. It's like the dog pretty much it's got a good grasp on what it needs at what time. Like
like the dog is thinking like, I'm gonna roll in that poo, and does it. That's a dog. It's just like, I'm gonna do that now. Oh, I'm doing it. That's the dog. Yeah, the best. Oh, now this smells great. Oh, I'm gonna eat it and throw it up on your carpet later.
Exactly.
Hey, Dad, check out my aftershaves.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Point in the shower, just like
Yeah. Oh, close it down. Smelly dogs.
Right.
Well, I miss my dog.
let's get back to this podcast has been derailed by dogs and rabbits. Yeah. This is
and cats. Don't forget the cats.
And cats. Yeah. Triple threat cats.
Triple cats.
So, recording in a castle.
Oh yes.
Now that you've recorded somewhere which is a bit off the cuff, has it made you think for future albums where you're like, I want to record somewhere really bizarre and like unique, or do you think you're going to stick to like a normal studio next time?
I think
go on, Jake. You go.
I was just going to say, I think after doing that, I think we could pretty much record anywhere. That's just like, oh, if we want it to happen, we'll make it happen somehow. Yeah. So yeah. But don't get me wrong, I really want to go to Thailand and do it at Karma Studios.
Oh, everyone wants to do that. It's so nice.
Well, so one of my closest friends is Dad's who owns it. My friend is literally one of my child. So like the temptation is there. He's always just like, he's literally, you know, he's been like one of my best friends since we were like 14. And he's always just like, come over this summer. It's like, oh, you know, I don't have $2,000 to drop on a ticket. He's like, I'll be fine. It's like, no, I don't think you're getting this poor part of me that literally I can't get there. Richard, if you're watching this.
Can you imagine the nightmare of actually getting your gear over there as well? Like, I don't know how much in terms of gear is already there and what you'd want to bring yourself, but can you imagine like your guitars and everything being packed over as well?
Well, we've done it. We did it with the last record because we went and recorded that in Texas, in Machine's wacky warehouse, and yeah, it was just it's funny. I think I took my SG, and I think we took a bass, and maybe Lewis took a snare. I don't think we used any of it. It's like I literally got there, and it's like Machine had his Telecaster with an Evertune in it, and it's just like. I did a couple takes. It's like, it's a nice guitar anyways, and it sounds amazing. And it's like, I picked up my SD. Let's see how this sounds. And like, before I'd even done a take, I was tuning. And Machine was like, you see what you're doing there? It's like, you could be tracking right now. And it's just like, oh my days. Yeah. Like I literally could have like laid down like 3 or 4 guitar tracks and it's still out of tune. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, sorry, there's an Evertune derailing there.
I fucking did. We went to Steel City in Sheffield last year, and I had a McCarty, but it was like the Jack from Marmors that's used to use it, and it was fucked. Like it never stayed in tune whatsoever. It's gone now. But I took it to Sheffield, and they have like Les Pauls and Telecasters and stuff like that. And I was like, no, I'm going to use my PRS in drop B. So like started tracking on it. It lasted like a chord, and we're like, no, get rid of it. It's not happening.
It sucks, man.
Yeah, you got to be as economical as possible, especially when you're not sure whether. Well, just been in the Castle scenario, we were just kind of shocked that not a lot actually went wrong. But
it's mad.
That Evertune was one of the only constants. To be fair.
Yeah.
Did you experiment with anything there? Like, was there any like cool rooms where you could put the drums in and maybe get a different like sound?
Well, the cool thing with that space is like sorry, going back to your original question of like, would we go back to a conventional studio? It's hard because we've been quite spoiled in regards to being so creatively free in the setups from this record and even Machine Shot, because Machine's just got a barn. Do you know what I mean? That he's converted to his, like, Machine's a cowboy. So it's like, if you listen to Here's to Fatigue, you can hear Machine shouting in the background because there's no room that you go in or mics that are isolated. It's just like, he'll just fucking get up on a ladder. He'll be listening around the room being like, yeah, mic feels good there. Yeah, fuck it. That feels good there. And you'll be tracking and he'll just be jumping around the room screaming at you. And that's just like his way of working. And there's no curfew really or anything. And I think especially with this record, the three of us, we're so like, I think creativity hits strong and hard with us, and we have to be quite impulsive in going with it and going with the flow of things. We've certainly found that's the best way of working. And when you put like a time restriction on that, there's no better killer of a mood when it's like, oh, this feels, that feeling where you're just channeling, you feel fucking great, and everyone's you've got that energy, and then it's like, oh yeah, we've got to be out in 10 minutes. And it's just like, sick. And then you get together tomorrow in the morning, and it's just like, it's never the same. So I think in regards to the actual setup of what the studio is, it doesn't really matter for our band or us. It just having that creative freedom where it's like, it doesn't matter that it's 1 a.m. and we're shouting or playing drums or doing whatever. It's just being able to go and do it there and then, and when it's feeling good. Maybe you've just written something that's going to be the way the album ends, or this or that, and it's like you want to be able to see that through. And I understand that's we're talking from a very privileged position to have had that experience, especially over 2 records, let alone 1. But I think that's arguably would be our priority when looking for where to record, if we had to look at where to record going forwards. And like Machine's place in the middle of the rural Texas can completely facilitate that, and a castle in the Cotswolds can facilitate that. And I think that's where
I remember Ash from when we had Ash from Holding Absence on the podcast, he kind of said the same thing, because with them being in the middle of nowhere where they could just whenever creativity just struck, they just were like, right, let's track it, let's just do it. Whether that's 3 a.m. or like first thing in the morning, like at a normal time, like it just doesn't matter. Like whatever goes. And that seems to be like the best type of experience for it.
So much of the magic happens in those moments. Do you know what I mean? Like when you've all
settled. Put time restrictions on the rock.
That's it. Yeah, and just so many of those magic moments. Like, there's definitely moments on this record where this album wouldn't be as good if we had to be in at 9, out by 6, or for example, it's like it wouldn't be anything. I don't even know if this band can function on that time schedule. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think I saw 9 in the morning once when we were doing the album.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just having that creative freedom to just go with the flow and be in it. And Machine's the perfect person to facilitate that as well, because I feel like we could be anywhere with him and he'd manage to wangle us an extra hour or the keys to somewhere or something. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So with what Mighty said then, what was there any like crazy recording techniques that you had?
Oh, sorry. I mean, I always reference this, but like the whole thing was crazy. Do you know what I mean? It's like we literally turned up. We'd spoken to Machine beforehand, because we were literally supposed to fly out to Texas. Like, basically, Jake joined the band. It was like, well, we hope you're ready, because we're literally going out to Texas, coming straight back, doing like a month-long European tour, like a week after we get back. So it's proper like, here we go kind of mentality. But obviously Jake was here, and he wasn't going to stand in the way of old Granddaddy Rock. And so we couldn't go to Texas because the border's shut because of COVID.
Yeah.
And then me and Lewis were just like looking into studios and like what we were going to do. And it was just like, we had such a good experience at the castle. And once we were looking at getting Machine over to us, because the one thing we didn't want to compromise on was the producer. It's like, no matter what we do, it just has to get done with Machine, even if the record gets pushed back or this and that. And we were looking into studio costs, and then you start looking into, okay, we can get Machine over, but then we need like accommodation, and we need food, and we need an engineer if he's not bringing Julian over and stuff like this. So you start adding it up. It's just like, well, we might as well just go back to the castle and see if we can make a studio there. And then you kind of put the idea to Machine, and he's just like, yeah, we'll make it work, as blasé as he always is. And then it was just literally a case of getting a list of him of stuff that he definitely needs, and just us begging and borrowing. Luckily for us, have you seen the Marshall Studio has opened now? I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
So luckily for us, the studio COVID kind of pushed all their plans back and delayed everything. So they had like 3 crates of the most expensive, like high-end recording shit that's just sat there unpacked. So we just hit Marshall up like, so you want us to do this album? Like, we're gonna need some help here.
Yeah.
So
we need your brand new 1176. We need all your lovely preamps. We need And they were like, yeah, cool. Just don't break them. And we were like,
thanks, bye.
Yeah. And they sent us a bunch of shit and some amps, and we just kind of cobbled like the mixing desk. I can't remember what desk we had now. It was a Midas, wasn't it? That was on some rickety old fucking fold out table that could have collapsed at any moment. It was like a 4 or 5 grand desk. And then
don't tell Marshall that.
Oh no, and then
too late.
But like
Sorry,
even like Jake had to build like ISO cabs out of sofa cushions, and like they were like falling down constantly, hitting the mics all the time and shit. It's like, you get those proper OCD producers or studio people, it's like to the millimeter they've measured shit out. It has to be there. It's like the exact opposite of that. Machine's just there with his feet up, like, I'll be fine. Is the mic on the speaker? It's like, yeah, let's go.
And then you listen back to it. You listen back to it after he's done like 5 minutes of processing, and you're like, oh, this is the biggest, widest guitar sound I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah, if there was ever a record that can be testament to most of the time none of that stuff matters, it would be this record, because it was literally done in a DIY studio in a castle. And this is all credit to Machine being a wizard. It sounds massive, and it's like nothing about this record sounds compromised. And again, this is full credit to Machine and just what he can do with nothing. But it's like if you saw the state of some of the setups, it's just like, how's it like the vocal booth? I put in quotes, the vocal booth was in like this little outhouse, and it was just a mic stand with like one of our swimming towels over the side of it, and then like the other side of it was just the world. It was just like doors into the world. And like there's a vocal take where I come round and I like, sorry, someone just sent me a message. Let me close that. Where I was bringing Jake back. I think we just got like Oreo ice creams or something. And I basically like sort of drift around this little, they used to have this gravel corner that was just really fun to like get the back end of my Volvo out on. So I'd like come in every time and just like drift around the corner. And we did it. And then like Lewis was tracking vocals. So it's like literally in the back of this take, you just hear me and Jake being loud coming in and like the wheels turning on the gravel. And Jake in that moment was like, I bet that's the take that gets used. And it was literally the take that ended up on the record. Do you remember what song it was, Jake?
Yeah, it's the end of the second verse in Baby Steps. And if you listen very faintly, you can hear the sound of a squeaky handbrake and then a little bit of gravel. But it's been low passed quite heavily, but it's there.
It is there, yeah.
So in aspects of that then, obviously you work with Machine a few times. How important would you say would be to find a producer that you can kind of connect with and lock in with during like the writing, the pre-production, the entire recording process? Would you say that's like pinnacle?
It's imperative.
Yeah.
I'd say so. I mean, it depends what you're going for though. If your songs are 100% finished and 100% done and you're confident with them, then you're an idiot because you always get a second opinion.
Yeah.
No, I'm not necessarily, but like, you know, there was times when we did a week's worth of pre-production. That's how Machine likes to work, which I think is amazing because it actually gives you a chance to get that second opinion. And also when you get out of the sort of modern day demo-itis mode where you're just sat behind a friggin' laptop, you're not necessarily in a room playing together. It's like we got in the room and we played the songs for a week. And then Machine would just chime in and be like, you're giving that part away too early. Here's how I think we could rectify it. And because Luke and Lewis had already worked with him, they already had that sort of relationship.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, oh yeah, I think you're giving this bit away too early. You could probably shoehorn another section in here, whatever. And then 10 minutes later, we'd kind of already written a section for it because you're there. Yeah. You all have the same goal. And in terms of just, his input was absolutely, we can't thank him enough, really. And it all comes from the best place as well. It's just to serve the song every single time. So I'd say the relationship, if you're in a band and you ever get the opportunity to work with someone who's got a bit of a reputation in that sort of sense, then I'd say definitely do it. Or even take a chance on someone who is new to the game but wants to get into that, then it's got to be done.
I think it's just finding that, if you're a 3-piece band, finding that fourth member for when you're doing the album in a producer or however many members, finding that extra band member is just it's the difference between you having a good album and a great album, you know. And like there are some horror stories of people where they're sticking their oar and it's just like, well, this I hate this, or you know. And but you know, more often than not, the producer knows best, right? Because it's their job to get the best out of your songs, especially if they're renowned for it, you know, and they've been doing it for as long as they have. And just to be, the best thing you can do is find that person you feel like gets your band, you trust their opinion and want their opinion, and just be completely open. Because the worst case scenario if you try everything out is like is that you just don't use it. Do you know what I mean? And that's very much our philosophy. It's just try all suggestions out. You know, we know pretty quick if something's not good or if something is feeling good. So it's just like, at least start exploring that. And even if you get to 2 weeks into the recording process and you still hate something, you can just take it out and you can always change it, you know. But you got to explore that. And Machine.
Yeah, so we retrack stuff. We basically had some vocal parts finalized, and then there was a point where I think it was Lewis or something was like, I think we need to redo this all. We were like, what are you talking about? And then he explained the idea and we were like, yeah, Machine, we need to redo this all.
Yeah.
But he's just like, okay, you know, if you think it will make it better, then let's do it.
100%. And just it's like I mean, for us it was nice because we knew we'd have that relationship anyways with Machine, where you bring the songs to to like 80%. And this is the way we work best as well, where it's like you can burn yourself out so much on demos, and it's like you can only get so far with your own demos where you lose perspective anyways on what's good or not. Like I'm sure you guys have had the thing where you've heard a demo so it's like, wait, is this shit? And
yeah,
it's like, no,
it's
not shit. It's just you've heard it 1,000 times. or on the opposite side, something feels good because you get so used to how it sounds.
Yeah.
You know, and then it feels wrong. Even though it's better, it feels wrong because you're used to how it sounds. And, you know, the way we work best is bringing them to kind of like, this feels good. Do you know what I mean? This all feels good. We know, you know, we're a band that's slightly more on the technical tendencies of stuff. So it's like we know we'll add in little tricks and twists and turns later and finesse it later. But in the way of the song, this feels good. But then you leave that extra % of those songs for someone like Machine, or in our case, we had it twice because we had Jake to come in and then we had Machine, and just and just really lean on that opinion if it's someone you respect, because they'll make your songs better. Do you know what I mean?
I guess it helped as well. Like he was already a fan of the band, so he sort of like had a sense of direction of where he wanted to go in, and then giving his own like 2 cents to it.
Yeah, man. Like I had nothing but the best intentions. You know what I mean? Like I only wanted what was best for the record, especially because it's gonna have my friggin' name and or mug on it. It's, you know, let's make it as good as it can be.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the other thing. It's like, you know, you can get so jaded in being in a band. It's like, even if you're writing something fresh, sometimes it's hard to feel like it's any good, you know, and or like if you should pursue something. So just having that person, like if you're, especially in the moment you're writing something in the studio, having like Machine there to be like, no, this is really good, you need to keep doing this, or just being like, I'm not feeling it. And like Jake was saying, sometimes we'd be jamming in pre-production and Machine would just be like, oh, I'm bored now, what are we gonna do? Do you know what I mean? As in like this bit, you kind of lost him, his attention's gone on that bit of the song, and he's just trying to represent like your objective listener, you know. And then him just saying that would like inspire the three of us to be like, okay, well, how would we switch this up, or how would we refine this, or whatever.
It's cool because it sounds like he already has like a sense of direction going into it, like as soon as you're in there. So that's what you need.
Yeah, no, complete. And you know, me and Lewis worked with him on Here's the Fatigue, and it was one of those things, literally a day into pre-production. We'd never met the guy before. Obviously, he's a legend in the heavy music world. He's done some insane albums, but you still don't know how it's going to be until you're there in the room with the guy. And it's like me and Lewis left the first pre-production. We're like, oh, that's what it's supposed to be like. Do you know what I mean? It's like we've worked with some real talented producers before and some amazing people, but it's just, this was a whole other level of just connection and like, oh shit, this guy gets exactly what we're trying to do here. And I'm sure, Jake, you felt that working with him for the first time, where it's just like, oh, it's like you've been in this band, and it's like you so understand what we're going for here, and you're just making us be more of the band that we're trying to be, you know, in some regards. Yeah.
So like this album, it's got a lot of dynamic to it as well. So like we've like standard tracks such as like Lead, and then like Hesitation, which ties off like the album perfectly. Lead reminded me, it was very like much of like a Radiohead sort of vibe to it, which I thought was cool. Yeah, but it just changes up the album like completely. Is this the sort of like intent you had as you was going in? You wanted to like sort of change it up to what you usually do?
Yeah, I think so. Like when we were writing, so that song's actually Lead because it's like lead and gold.
I thought this to myself. I was like, is it going to be Lead or Lead?
No, Lead. I'm the same. I struggle with this stuff all the time. But so with Lead, that was a funny one because there were some songs on this record that came together super quick. So there's tracks like Lead was one of them. Smoldering Sticks was another, where like Lewis went and worked on some lyrics that he was pulling together, and like Smoldering Sticks and Lead were very similar, where I was just kind of sat, like I'd structured some stuff, I put some vocals down that were feeling good, and then it's kind of like, oh, I'm not sure what to do now, and I was just jamming on the acoustic, and Lead just came out all in one go very quickly, and like I just jammed a rough structure and it felt good, and I put the vocals down, and then Smoldering Sticks was the same, where like Lewis was going off to his little lyric den, and I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm not sure what to do right now, but if we're not together. And he was just like, write a song on bass. Do you know what I mean? It's like I hadn't started a song where it's like, I'm going to start this with just a bass line that feels like it could carry a song. And that was another one where it just kind of flowed out very quick. And I think all but like the third, maybe like some BVs or something. And like, I think Lewis added the big epic. We call them, I don't know if you guys play games, but you know the game The Witcher? Yeah. You ever played that? Yeah. So it kind of sounds like something off the Witcher soundtrack. But like, so I'd had most of the vocals down for that. But then there's other songs on the record, like Test of Our Resolve, which is ironically, I think, one of the most kind of flowy, cohesive songs on that album. That had like 7 versions of it before it was the end song. And like we were wrestling with that song. It was so different at the start. And then it went through all these different versions. Me and Lewis never felt like it felt right. And then I finally got a structure that kind of felt, it was like, this feels good. Like, I think we should stick with this. This feels good. And then I put like a rough vocal down. It's like, I don't know if this is any good, but I'll put this down for now. And then Lewis went away and just kind of, it all came out and he just redid all the vocals and just got the lyrics out in one go. And so it's just weird how the songs can come together in such different ways where it can all come out in one go, or like sometimes you've got other songs like Test of Resolve where it's like it would be insane if you played someone how that song started out. It's completely different, and we're really wrestled with it.
Even then, when we thought we had the structure when we were doing it in pre-production, Machine said, "You're giving that last chorus away too early." So we wrote a section there and then even after we got the masters back, I got a message from Luke being like, "Is it shit? Is the structure shit? I think it might be shit." I was like, no, it's perfect. Yeah. It's perfect. You've deliberated for too long. Don't worry, it's absolutely perfect. Yeah. And that's me trying to keep my still not actually in the band head on. Yeah. Just be like, no, I'm still a fan. It's bang on. Don't even worry about it.
yeah. That's it, man. Yeah.
Was that an issue, like list, obviously holding on to the album for so long before you released it? Do you find that you listen to it over and over and you sort of get that demo-itis sort of vibe where you're like, shit, could we have done this like a bit differently? Or
demo-itis with the final album.
The final album. Yeah. Well, I've got much better at. This is just through doing it for so long and making all these mistakes on like the first record and stuff. Where it's like I know I'm very aware of that feeling and that hesitancy around, oh god, is this still any good? So it's like I purposely try to listen to the album as little as possible in that period. But like it's definitely a thing, like and especially after Good Intent. It's funny because when me and Lewis talk about Good Intent in interviews now, it doesn't even feel like it was the same band. It kind of for us, it feels like Here's to Fatigue was the first record that this band released, whereas Good Intent we were just writing because we liked musically masturbating. Do you know what I mean? And just putting in twists and turns. We had this idea of the stuff we listened to at the time that was really out there, and we really liked the idea of marrying all these parts together. And that spirit of the band is still there. And you hear it in tracks like Gold. But yeah, it feels like that was a different thing. But off the back of that, I do remember just literally being the week before release, like, I think this might be really bad. We're about to literally put this out on our first label and with a PR campaign and all of this stuff. And then it comes out and, people like it. And it's like, oh no, we were fine all along. You know what I mean? And then, so that is a thing. And sorry, Matt, I realized I never actually probably answered your question with the dynamics of the record. Me and Lewis going into it, we had, like I said, we had no preconceptions. And when I talked about just letting go of what we thought this record had to be or any boxes that we need to check, we really did that. And it was just a case of starting a song, going with what the song feels like it wants to be, rather than trying to grab it and turn it in a different direction. Or if that did happen, it came very organically and it came out of the song feeling like it should go there, rather than being like, oh no, but we're Press To Meco, so we should fucking sucker punch people. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever. So like tracks like Lead and I'm trying to think, like Baby Steps. Like I always forget how dynamically quiet Baby Steps is, because all I think of when I think of Baby Steps is the ending riff. Just Jake screaming. And like Overdue as well was another one where it's just like I think I had that guitar riff, the guitar intro bit, and it just felt good. And it was just kind of sitting on that rather than just trying to force it to go in any direction. It felt like it didn't. And I feel like me and Lewis have I feel like we've accomplished being the best version of what we were always trying to do on this record. Whether or not that's any good is for people to decide. But I think we certainly feel like we figured it out a bit more on this record.
No, you definitely smashed it with it, 100%.
Oh, thank you.
On the back of that, then you mentioned that you took inspiration from a few albums. One of them being Paramore's After Laughter album, which is something which is now noted as having really melancholic topics, but he's kind of like played down by really upbeat songs. Is there something about that album that really spoke to you as a songwriter?
Yeah, I think I mean that kind of juxtaposing, melancholy kind of subject matter or bleak subject matter with kind of perhaps a very uplifting feeling kind of soundtrack was always kind of where we were at with the early stuff in Press To Meco, where we just liked a lot of contrast, where it's like, oh, okay, if we're going to be heavy here, we'll stick a bunch of ABBA-like harmonies on it. And it's kind of like we were so young. I mean, we must have been like 19, 20 when we wrote that record. So it's like we're still kids. Do you know what I mean? We're literally still kids in our eyes. So but with Paramore stuff, I think always remember really vividly when me and Lewis were getting the first chunk of the song. I say me and Lewis writing because Jake came in and the songs are what they are because of Jake's input as well at the end. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But writing the bulk of this album when me and Lewis did, we were spinning Paramore and we were spinning the new 21 Pilots album. And the thing I loved on that record was just how it just like the songcraft of being able within a few seconds of setting the mood of a song and kind of knowing what the song's trying to say and what vibe you're in, with the song so early on. They're such masters of that, and just kind of taking a leaf out of their book and being like, why is it that our songs sound so erratic and hard to figure out? Like, even when we're trying not to, and then 21 Pilots can play 4 bars and it's just like everyone knows where they're at, and it's just kind of trying to be a bit more scientific and analyzing and why that is. And the other record was I can't actually remember the title of it now. I'm so bad. What was the Daughters record, Jake? You Won't Get What You Want. Is that it?
Yeah, that's the
one.
one.
Get You Want. Yeah, and that Daughters record again, where it's just like
it's terrifying. It's absolutely
fucking terrifying. Yeah.
Is that the first or the second album?
Huh?
Is that the first or the second Daughter album?
I think that might actually be their third album.
Yeah, I think it's third.
Sonically, it's the opposite of After Laughter.
Yeah. And I think After Laughter for us is just like, these songs are just so well written and everything's so in its own space, and every element of these Paramore tracks is doing its job. And then you've got an amazing vocal with great lyrics being delivered in an amazing way. So Paramore for us is just like the ultimate songwriting masterclass. Do you know what I mean? Like, especially from their self-titled onwards, it's just like mind-blowing for us. But yeah, the Daughters thing was just like, why does this make me feel like I want to get out of my own skin when I listen to this? You know what I mean? It's like, why does this make me feel so uncomfortable? And it's just really respecting. Again, so it's funny because the 21 Pilots and the Daughters album kind of played a similar role, where it's just like, look at how well they set the mood and set the tone. And it's something I think we'd always struggled on, was sitting on stuff. And I think a track like Baby Steps kind of shows where we've maybe figured that out a little bit more, where it's like, if you've got kind of a bit more of a consistent vibe from early on that stays throughout the whole song, even though it does change and twist and turn a little bit. But yeah, so it's funny because they were really the 3 records that not necessarily influenced us in the way of we wanted to sound like Daughters or we wanted to sound like Paramore or wanted to replicate a 21 Pilots song, but just in regards to just how they set the mood or how they connected. Connection, something I haven't spoken about, but that was really what me and Lewis were going for, is just writing stuff that you can connect with, at least from our perspective. It feels like, we connected with this music and feel the most invested in it than we ever have. And I know Jake feels a similar way.
100%. And then in terms of sonics, we wanted it to sound like Machine produced it. So we got Machine to produce it.
We took him to a castle.
Bribed him with a good time at a castle.
Yeah. literally, he turned up and he was just, we were trying to show him, be like, so maybe we could do the booth. And he was like, dude, you got a pool? Let's go. Like immediately in his trunks, like fucking swanton bombs off this wall into the fucking pond. The pool.
I remember when we podcasted with Rome just after they'd released their album. We worked with Machine, and it was like the wildest time.
He's a dude. He's crazy.
Outdoor barbecues every day or something.
Oh yeah, like at the ranch, it's just like the machine shop. It's just you just it's set up to just eat burgers and be creative. That's basically
that's the dream.
Yeah, that's literally all you. Because other than that, you're basically living like fucking Breaking Bad in a little Winnebago thing.
You little whiteys.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, it is mad out there.
So. Noticed as well in the past year you did a full stream of the first Billy Talent album.
Oh yeah.
What was it specifically about the first album which kind of speaks to you as a guitarist?
I mean, it's funny because obviously me and Jake are two peas in the pod when it comes to like our first kind of idea of a rock star was Angus Young in AC/DC.
Yeah.
But I feel like for me, I didn't really grow up having, you know, your typical guitar idols where I think, you know, a lot of people have, it's like, oh, I want to play like Jimi Hendrix, or I want to play like Steve Vai. Well, me and Jake are too old men to know who like the modern equivalents are. Like, Jake probably knows better than I do.
Matthew Bellamy.
Yeah, he's sick. But like, yes, I never really found myself, other than Angus, who it's just, I loved AC/DC from a young age. I never really found myself having people. It's like, oh, I want to be him. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to be this guy as a guitarist. It was more just like hearing bands and hearing riffs and hearing songs. But Ian Desar is probably the only guitar player where I feel like I kind of wear my influence on my sleeve a bit with him, where I feel like he's one of those people where I think I heard maybe River Below, or it was either Try Honesty or River Below. And it's just like, I would have been like 11 or 12 when that came out. And I was just like, this guitar, this is like a rock band, but the guitar has so many more notes. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and how is he doing? And there's only one guitarist, but like, I can sing this bit of the guitar, but there's also the bit that the bass plays. Yeah. And so he was really the guy who opened my eyes to just chords and just like voicing stuff and just playing with your fingers on the fretboard. Cause like, I have no technical, theory knowledge of music, but all my guitar playing growing up was literally just being an ADHD kid being like, oh, I can put my finger here and it makes this sound, or I can do the octopus or the spider and it does this and that. So Ian Desar was such a great person to look up to learning Billy Talent songs, because he's got all these crazy, I don't know, like jazz chords that he throws into these like punky riffs and stuff. So Billy Talent were a huge band that I think, and Ian Desar's playing in particular, that I think actually had an impact on the way I play guitar, rather than it being like, I love this riff and I end up writing riffs that kind of are like that riff from this band and then kind of finding my own spin on it. And Dan Weller from Sixth was the other guy where it's just like, just the melody in how heavy they are. Do you know what I mean? It's like you could take the vocals out of Sixth and just listen to the guitar, and it's so melodic and so good.
See, I had the reverse motion Dan, where I knew him as a producer from Young Gun stuff before discovering him as a guitarist. So when I discovered him as a guitarist, I was like, what
holy
the
shit.
fuck? Like,
you're telling me this big nerd with glasses does that?
I was like, oh, he's more of the producer.
Yeah. No, I love Dan. He's a good guy. Sorry, you going to say something, Jake?
No, I'm just thinking about Death of a Dead Day.
Yeah.
I'm literally just thinking about it going, Jesus Christ, like how do you do that?
Yeah. And the crazy thing, you listen to the Trees album of Sixth, it's like they wrote that shit. It's like they were like 21. Dan wrote a lot of that stuff.
That's insane.
It's insane.
And no one had really done anything like that beforehand. I mean, there was the odd thing, and he has Cannibal Corpse's guitar tone, which is like fine, great.
And some of Cannibal Corpse's riffs. Some of their riffs.
And some of their riffs as well. Yeah.
Which he'll be the first one to hold his hands up and say, but it's just like, it's just and Six's way of just injecting melody into so much technicality and some stuff that can be so heavy as well, like yeah, just. But sorry, those two guitarists and Billy Talent, yeah, they were a huge influence to me. So it's just yeah. When I was playing guitar on stream, I was doing a thing before stuff started opening up a bit more. I just play through records from when I was younger, and Billy Talent 1 just felt right. And it was actually funny revisiting a lot of songs and being like, oh, I've been playing this so wrong since I was like 14. Like, that's not how you play it at all. And then reappreciating actually how much better it was than I thought it was, you know, when I was younger, because you've got, you know, a better ear and more ability now, and being like, oh, this is still so good, you know.
I always find it incredible that he is the only guitarist in that band.
Yeah.
I find that slightly intimidating that he can make that much sound just from one dude.
It's amazing. It's just the, you know, he'll have the riff and then he'll be voicing it, so it just sounds like there's another guitar playing within that, and that's I latched onto that really early, and that's just I'm obsessed with that idea of playing guitar. Yeah.
See, I was probably like you with. Sorry, Matt, I'll let you get you thinking.
Oh no, I was gonna say it about you anyway. Like, because like growing up, I remember you was always into like Slash. Like Slash was always Matt's big thing. But this is the funniest thing about it. So like Slash was his like big like god of guitars like the. But yeah, he wasn't that keen on AC/DC. But yeah, every time we turned up to practice, we'd end up playing Green Day, and he also played it on an SG. Yeah. Like, what?
And I don't like Les Pauls.
And he doesn't like Les Pauls either. He's like, oh, I hate them.
Me and Jake were at a party at the weekend, and we ended up playing like 3 or 4 AC/DC sets on Strats. Like literally both on Strats. Sounding just like the first record. But yeah, man.
Mightily pissed up, I might add as well.
Oh yeah, it was
a good effort.
But
yeah, I was going to say I was pretty much like you with like when I was learning guitar when I was younger. I was one of them dickheads who was like, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if you stretched like a chord just like with like the furthest frets you can?"
Yeah.
You never think of it like when you eventually like try and gig when you stood up, you cannot play them. It is fucking impossible to do that.
Yeah. So unless you get on your knee and drop your thumb,
and just constantly have your foot up like on the monitor, just like.
Well, this is the funny thing. Like when you first start off, you think you're all cool, because I used to like put my bass all the way down because I wanted to be Duff McKagan. And then the older I've got, and the more like different things I play on bass, the higher my fucking bass has come up here. So I'm like, I've gone from like down here to up here, and it's because it's more practical in it. But it's funny how like you go for that sort of thing when you're younger.
And then you realize you can't play it.
Yeah, exactly. I remember seeing Your Demise play a show in maybe like 2008 or something, and the bass player had his bass so low that he was basically picking on the 12th fret, and it was like, dude, what? Even then, for me, I was like 17, and I was like, dude, that sounds like shit. You look cool as fuck, but that sounds like ass.
Yeah.
Funny one.
It's like whenever I went through the phase of Asking Alexandra when they first came out, like the first 2 albums, and they had like the really low guitars.
Oh my days.
To be fair, they were only playing open and 1, so that's
just angle the guitar up, they're fine.
just lean into it.
That's it.
So we might as well get on to the 2 reoccurring segments that we do in the podcast. Jake, you already know about this. Luke, you do not. So
hit me with it.
Okay, no.
All right. So with us being a music podcast and a horror film podcast, what is your favorite scary movie?
Do you know what film scared the shit out of me when I was younger? I watched Signs when I was like 10. And that scene where the alien walks past, which is so funny now. If you go back and watch it now, that gave me a fear of aliens for like 5 years. That fucking film. Other than that, I think I think maybe like Blair Witch Project for me. Like I think it still creeps me out today a bit. I'm not trying to be like hard or anything, but it's like I struggle to get so invested in a lot of horror films where I feel genuinely scared, which is what I like. I like that thing where it's like I actually feel uncomfortable watching this if I want to watch a horror film. And Blair Witch was one of the few that even from a young age, like I remember really like stuck with me. Like
Yeah, it's like that through, especially towards the end, and you don't like really. You don't even see the witch, do you?
No.
No. I was just sat there like, so like,
yeah.
This isn't real, right?
The fact that you can be that scared of something you've not even seen as well, and do you know what? Like the game as well is just as good. I don't know if you played it, but the Blair Witch game is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
How about you, Jake?
I mean, all-time favorite is probably the original Omen sequel, Damien 2. Nice. Like, I love that film. That was one of the first horror films I ever saw, and it did scare the shit out of me, but it also just kind of gave me the bug for that type of horror film, like Satan, because it's so metal, and I was banging to Slayer and stuff at the time. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that for me was, I think that's probably still well up there. And I know a lot of people think that's sacrilege because the first one is an absolute classic. But yeah, the second one for me, I love that. Just where the doctor finds out that Damien doesn't have the same DNA as the other school kids.
Yeah.
And then gets cut in half in the elevator.
Yeah, some of the deaths on the Omen films are like unreal, like especially for the time when it came out. They really went all out with the kill scenes and that.
So good. Yeah. It's definitely ahead of its time in some regards. And then but then more recently, Hereditary. Like, I've never felt like at the end of that film just cold and empty and still hugging the pillow. Like, honestly, man. And the twist as well, obviously I'm not going to give it away, but yeah, absolutely blew me away. And yeah, both terrifying in certain regards, like obviously a more kind of like psychological kind of thing. But then yeah, the ending, I was just like, wasn't feeling anything, which is probably scarier, you know, than shitting yourself and like not wanting to like go up the stairs without the light on. But just being like, oh, we're all gonna die one day.
I like that feeling of when you get scared though, because I love being aware that I'm scared and that it's so silly, because it's just like, why am I walk up and down these stairs 100,000 times, but this one time nothing's changed, and I'm a bit nervous about going up the stairs without my bunny. Actually, I completely forgot. The Shining is my favorite horror film. I know it's a classic and it's like a cliche, but it's like it's art. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's literally art.
Actual art.
Yeah, it's so good for so many ways. Yeah.
Well, Matt had the other guy on the podcast. That's his favorite one as well, The Shining.
Yeah,
but yeah. That you'd be surprised how much Midsummer actually comes up as well.
Really?
Sorry, Midsummer and Hereditary. Sorry, them two come up quite a lot as well together.
The scene in Hereditary with, it doesn't really give much away, but Jake will understand what I mean. Where it's the ball that falls.
Yes.
It bothers me so much. That's
Likewise. I only watched it the once. I've only seen it the once. Like, literally got to the end and I was like, once is enough.
Yeah, never again.
Yeah,
I've seen it. It's now done. How's my dog just done?
It's now done. There's a little hole inside of me now that it will never be filled.
Sorry, my dog just completely distracted me. Then he just like grabbed. He has like this.
Oh,
like,
let's see him. Get your dog out.
It's basically, it looks like Bear from Bear in the Big Blue House.
Oh. My favorite. Get your dog out.
That's it.
Get your dog.
Oh, look at that good pooch. I didn't know it was Christmas.
I know you got candy cane already now.
No, he's herding. He's herding all the other dogs.
What's the dog's name?
Oh God.
Ted. I can't hear.
It's Ted.
It's Ted.
Oh, yeah. He got his stick. One sec. Ted, drop this.
What a good boy.
There you go.
I just love it at him.
Let's pass it out. Cheers. Just went.
So is that, Matt, you say he's called Ted?
Yeah, Ted.
Oh, Ted. I love you, Ted.
Ted's mental. But yeah, back to the horror. So you've both said your favorite horror movies, scary movies. Our second segment is, what is your pet peeve?
About the film? Or
no,
just in general?
No, in general.
What pisses you off in the world? The pettiest things it can be.
Jake's got a whole bunch of them.
What are you trying to say about my personality, man? Jesus. I do keep a lot of it to myself. I'm going to go with people talking on quiet carriages on trains, and how much of an issue that can actually turn into. It's actually, it can get quite there's layers to it. Yeah, because you could be on a quiet carriage, and it says quiet carriage, it says it's there, everyone can see it, but then you've got maybe one couple on there who are talking, a reasonable, like normal talking volume. Is that allowed? Is that grounds to go and complain to someone? It's a tough one. It is a real tough one. But then again, the way around that is just go in a normal carriage, and then you can't complain about anything. But on the off chance that someone is in the quiet carriage who actually respects the rules.
I mean, if you're walking into the quiet carriage, you should expect to be quiet.
Exactly, man. Is that too much to ask?
Yeah.
Is it too much to ask? So that's mine. It's a tough one. It is a tough one though, but that's what I'm gonna go with.
Quiet carriage. That sounds like a horror movie in itself.
It does, doesn't it? Oh my god, you've done
in a world.
In a world where a man wants to listen to his podcast in peace.
Jake stars in Quiet Carriage.
Quiet carriage. I don't know if I have loads of pet peeves. I can't remember them though. What's like I don't know why this is what I'm thinking of, but sane people who get drunk and wipe their poo on the wall of toilets.
Oh, what the fuck is that about? Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like, come on, I get it. You want to cause some chaos. I've been an angry testosterone-ridden teen before. I get it. You want to break things sometimes. Why are you wiping your poo on the wall, man?
Well, that's it. And sometimes you go in and there's like this shit on the floor. It's like, how the fuck? I know you're drunk, but how the fuck is your asshole missed that rim of the toilet? You're supposed to sit down on it.
Why did you think poo was the answer there? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know why that's what. Clearly, I've seen some poo on a wall at some point in my life, and it really got to me. Like, why'd you do that? Yeah, and that's me saying it. I'm so ADHD and impulsive, and that's me saying it. So it's really that must be bad.
You just took the words right out of my mouth, mate. Like you looking at it being like, but I'm me, and they're doing that.
Yeah. It's like to make me question why somebody did something, and it's just like don't. If everyone look, I get it. Like,
and it's more effort. Like, why would you go?
More effort.
Yeah,
well, I don't know. If you've just gone in there, turned around, shat on a toilet standing up, and you've just wiped and been like, "Wah!" Do you know what I mean? To the side. Like, that's the only way. I just don't get what kind of rampage you have to have been on.
Yeah.
That night.
Especially if it ends up here and the toilet's down here. It's like,
come on, man.
The trajectory just doesn't work out, does it? Like,
no,
you gotta get the angle.
Jackass into it when they do the thing where it's the hill.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
They just throw their fucking poo rag to the side and hits the wall.
Press To Meco. Press To Meco talking about the big issue.
It's a big issue.
If I ever saw a bit of poo on the wall of a quiet carriage, I would flip.
Oh, shit.
I've seen it in a train carriage. I've seen it on a fucking Southern Rail train.
Of course it was Southern Rail.
Yeah.
Dirty, soft Southern bastard.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
That's it.
The closest I've got to that is food poisoning. Growing up at the same time.
I talked about food. Jake see me the most food poisoned in my life.
Yeah, it was nasty.
Yeah,
you still smashed a gig.
Nice one.
I shat myself.
Yeah, you did poo himself.
I was the poo wiper that day. Actually, I'm starting to kind of see both sides of this now.
Yeah, but you won't get yeeting your shit against the wall, were you?
No, that's true.
Oh man, that's fucking funny.
But yeah, is that allowed to be my pet peeve?
Absolutely,
100%, man. That's sick.
I was gonna say one for you that was, why would anyone have an 8-hole Telecaster pickguard rather than a 5-hole Telecaster pickguard?
But I think started. What? At what point did Fender think it was a good idea to introduce 3 extra holes to a pickguard that didn't need any extra security?
Yeah.
But that's not as funny. So let's leave that there.
Yeah, let's stick. Can we stick with the poo wall, please?
And we all like Fender.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
I know. We do.
Fucking hell.
Oh, amazing.
Perfect.
Oh, that's a beaut.
A pink. This is the pink Strat.
Nice.
You can't go wrong with pink Strat.
Yeah, with a nice amount of holes in the scratch guard.
I mean, one sec.
He's going to get his baby blue now.
Oh, let's see it.
Hiya.
Let's all get our strats out.
Get your strats out.
Oh,
I'm pretty close.
that's awesome. Let's see the back of it. Oh, we can't hear.
There we go.
What is that? Play series?
It's a 2006 50 Strat Mexican one.
Ah, classic 50.
Classic player.
Classic player, nice, yeah. Oh, what you got in the bridge?
Seymour Duncan Hot Rail.
Ooh, very
Because I
tasty.
thought when I was back in my Slipknot phase, I thought, do you know what? I really want some EMGs in my Strat. And the clever person at the music store went, you really don't want to do that. And I went, okay.
Yeah. And then Jim Root went and did it anyways.
Yeah. And I was like, fuck.
That's it. Jake's got a nice square Strat. It sounds sick. It literally sounds so. I don't get. It shouldn't sound as good. I've not heard another one that sounds as good as his one.
I lucked out. I really did.
Yeah, sounds wicked.
Do you know what family like some squares like out of the blue? There's always that random one where it just sounds amazing. You can't work out why.
Yeah, Jake's got one, and my mate at college that me and Lewis went to, he had this green. It must have been just like an Affinity, what the Affinity series Strat was back then. It's just it felt amazing. It's just like just the perfect marriage of all these bits of wood in this one guitar, lucked out on this one, and it just sounded so good.
Dangerously close to talking about Strats and Tellies for another hour.
Yeah.
This is where it stops being a music and horror podcast. It's just all about Fender Strat.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, I will. I will talk about pickups for a year.
Yep. You talk about the Frankenstein that you're building right now.
Oh, don't make me get Frankenstein out.
Ridiculous. He's got a Telecaster body with a Cobra T in the bridge, a Strat pickup in the middle, and a P90 on the neck, and a trem.
Oh my
I love
God.
it. It's got a trem as well.
Can't wait.
Sorry. We don't want to make your podcast uncool.
Oh no.
Yeah, we're very uncool people, so we're trying our hardest to keep up the standard that you guys have established.
If anything, we've set it at a really low bar with us being on it in the first place. So
Yeah, that's nice.
Oh, come on.
Nice, yeah. And then we spoke about Mr. Poo Wall.
It's going to happen,
If
isn't it?
I can imagine that ended up as an actual highlight on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Look at hell.
Oh, incredible. Anyway, fellas, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Pleasure.
The album's amazing. Wish you all the best of luck with it. I imagine it's going to do incredible anyway.
We'll see. We'll see. In fact, it means a lot you guys have checked it out and you actually like it. It's weird for us because it feels like it's not a new thing, but it is that people are hearing it. And it's weird when people are like, oh, I like the album, by the way. It's like, oh shit, you actually heard it now because it's out.
Mhm.
When is it out? I mean, Friday. And I don't know when this comes out. Yeah.
Fucking Friday.
So thank you. It really means a lot. Thank you.
No,
Yeah, appreciate
absolute
it.
Pleasure. We'll do a fake goodbye.
Oh, yeah, cool.
But yeah, cool. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
Woo! That was so many distractions in that episode. You had dogs, you had cats, you had Luke in his introduction. But that was episode 57 of an Earful podcast with Luke and Jake of Press To Meco.
Yeah, make sure you go and listen to Transmute. Go smash it on Spotify. Go buy it, which is even better. Yeah, it's a cracking album. Thanks to the guys for coming on again. Don't forget to check them out on all socials, the usual places. And don't forget to check us out as well on socials while you're at it. So drop a double like on each one of those if you already haven't. Get on YouTube, click subscribe, because there's going to be more content coming your way as well. Plus, we've got 56 other episodes for you to listen to, which is weird saying. I can't believe we're getting up to like 60 hours. Mental. But yeah, thanks for listening anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And we might as well mention as well a massive thank you to Charlotte from Marshall Records for getting us the scheduling with the guys from the band. Absolutely love this conversation. Now, as we mentioned, we have 56 episodes of us chatting absolute shit to loads of fantastic people. So make sure you go and check that out, along with Horrorfest, along with some other upcoming Horrorfest stuff that will be coming at the end of the year. You know what time it is. It's all good stuff. As well, we have Silver Screen Unseen, which is hosted by our lovely good friend Ryan, who goes in depth on all the different films with different guests. Nightcrawler, Parasite. There's so many good ones. So make sure you go and check out those episodes out as well, because they are so good to listen to. But yeah, we will see you next time on episode 58. Take care now.